Hey everyone, this is Sandy Savage and I'm the founder of Beloved Ministries. I founded Beloved in 2007 and we're an organization dedicated to caring for the sex industry. First off, I just want to thank Leadership Network for asking me to speak this year. It's just an honor and a privilege, and I love everything that you guys do in creating resources and environments for leaders to connect together. With Beloved, we have the gift of operating in multiple cities and states, and it's given us a great opportunity to connect and partner with multiple churches and denominations. Now, with that, I've gotten an upfront seat to see how different churches address social justice issues within their own communities. I'd love for you to imagine if worldwide the church became the hands and the feet of Jesus with all of the resources available to us. I believe that it's possible and our responsibility to take ownership of restoring joy in our communities and the world around us. I believe that the church can become unified with itself and with nonprofits around the world who are caring for people. When I look at this topic, I see two things that we can do, and both lead to generosity. Generosity of our volunteers and generosity of our finances. With addressing social justice issues and staying on track with the primary gospel mission, I don't believe that the two are separable. If we're loving and helping people understand the gospel, addressing injustice and caring for people, we are living out the calling of the church. The churches that I've seen that are the most effective are ones that partner with pre-existing nonprofits with their volunteers and their finances instead of trying to build entire teams around the concept of outreach. Typically when I've seen churches who don't partner well with others, it leads back to a scarcity of volunteer power, as if God won't provide the necessary volunteers for the church. We need to become outward focused and not inward. Sending people out and not keeping them working inside. Thinking, how do we get our people outside of these walls instead of how do we get our people to be better volunteers for us? And along with being generous with our volunteers, we have to be generous with our finances. If we lead out in sacrificial giving, those who follow us will be sacrificial also. They'll be flexing their sacrificial muscle. And what I mean by this is if the church as a whole was sacrificially giving back to the community that they're in. If you can imagine 10% of your annual giving that comes into your church went back to the community through nonprofits, through giving to smaller churches in need, through helping a family in need, what an impact that can make. Imagine if all of the churches in your city did the exact same. You wouldn't need marketing directors or snappy slogans. People would hear about the generosity of the church and they would want to come and check it out. And then they would hear about the generosity of Jesus. I believe that if the church leads the way in generosity, our congregations will follow in generosity. In talking to pastors or boards, the most common thing when I bring up this topic is, what if we can't cover our budget? What if we can't cover staff salaries? We need to make church improvements. But you can trust God with that. It's exactly what we tell families when we encourage them to tithe. What do we hear the most? How do I afford my bills? I need to make home improvements, etc. It's the exact same thing. If they see the larger church trusting God with these things, then they can believe that they can trust Him too. God will provide. The first time that I encountered scarcity of giving was when I launched as a nonprofit. I received a call around Christmas time after we sent out our newsletter that included a part where you could support us in that. And I received a call from an upper level staff member at a local church asking us as a nonprofit to not ask for donations for our nonprofit because the church was behind on their year-end giving and didn't want to compete with a nonprofit. They had bought into this lie that God couldn't provide for all of our needs. And at that moment, I saw the larger issue of scarcity of the church and with finances and how it can create a division that we were really meant to be unified in instead of divided in. Encouraging people to give of their time and their resources without the scarcity of them not tithing enough to your church will unleash freedom in your community. I promise it. So keeping the gospel clear in a social justice oriented society, gosh, I believe can involve these two things: generosity of people and finances. Like, let's free up our people at our churches to be more giving and more loving. And we can free up our staff to focus more on creating a community that effectively communicates the gospel, not just through our weekend services, but through being the church outside of the church walls. Like, we can create a massive force of generous, giving people that could turn the tide against the injustice in this world. Thanks again for listening, and I hope this has been a helpful resource for you.